Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call, and the app I'm using to create this video cuts it off and won't let you pick it back up. So you will now be watching part 2 of this video. But what I was saying, I think, when I got interrupted was that anything you run into that freaks you out and you don't know how to do it, Google it. There will be untold amounts of YouTube videos that tell you how to do something on Excel that you might not know how to do. So bear that in mind. Don't freak out. All right. This is for practice. It's to get you comfortable, and that's what you need to give yourself grace on. So the first thing I want to tell you about in terms of what you need to do tonight is that there is a link in the module of Brightspace that says miscellaneous helpful content. You're going to see a link that says how to install the Excel data analysis tool pack. That's just going to take you to a website. It's been a minute since I've used the tool pack myself, so I followed this exact website myself this morning to download the tool pack myself, and it worked just fine. Hopefully you'll have no trouble with that. So that's the first thing. That's in miscellaneous helpful content. You will see it labeled as such. If you do by chance run into issues installing the tool pack, I will be available to you. So you can text me if you're running into issues. I'll do my very best to problem solve with you. I'm not the greatest Excel problem solving guru, but I'll give it my best shot, or reach out to other colleagues I have that use Excel more than I do. So don't hesitate if you hit a wall with that to reach out. By the way, when you do install the tool pack, nothing grand is going to happen. Like, you're not going to see some message pop up that says congratulations, you installed the tool pack. It's just going to it's just going to be following the directions, and when you're done with the directions, the tool pack is installed. And when you go to the, I think it's called the data tab in Excel, you will have some new tools available to you there. So one quick point I want to hit on that might relate to what you do with tonight's assignments is the difference between descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So you can read about this in your textbooks as well, but I'm just going to quickly summarize this for you. That descriptive statistics are really just describing what's there in a data set. They have nothing to do with drawing conclusions or inferring anything from the data. They're just describing the data that's there. So when you're engaging in descriptive statistics, you're going to be using terms that are more familiar to you, like mathematical terms like mean, median, mode, range, variance, standard deviation, things like that you would have studied in math, in upper math anyway. Descriptive stats just make the data understandable. They have nothing to do with drawing conclusions from the data. Inferential stats, on the other hand, go a step further than descriptive stats. So the inferential stats are when you're going to, now that you see the data, you understand the data, then you're going to use these tools, and these are the tools that you will practice using in the data tool pack assignment for tonight. These are the tools that help you take that data and then use it and interpret it to draw a conclusion, or to test a hypothesis, or to make a prediction, and so forth. These are things like t-tests and correlation and chi-square tests and p-values, and don't freak out over that, because you're going to use those as you need them. And remember, I will be there with you. I'll be walking through this with you, and we'll be having individual meetings to determine exactly what tests you need to be running to carry out your research. By the way, I have also included a link to a review of what I just talked about in your miscellaneous helpful content module. there is a descriptive versus inferential stats PDF if you want to refer to that. And I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but I wanted this to be in a form that you could go back and listen to again, so you don't get overwhelmed. Another bit of information that you might want to wrap your head around is the idea of normal data versus non-parametric data. So like normal data is also known as parametric data, and it's data that follows a normal curve. So if you will remember from math, or you would know this like as an educator, you're going to know this from like when you get standardized test scores back and so forth. That type of data tends to fall within like what we call a bell-shaped curve, which looks exactly what it sounds like. It's a bell-shaped curve, and what you would expect to happen is like, so let's say even in the classroom you give a test, if everyone scored super high on the test, that wouldn't really be something you'd consider normal. Okay, what you would normally expect to happen is that you would have a few people that are way to the extreme in high performance. You would expect there would be a few people low down at the bottom level of performance, but what you would expect is that the bulk of the class would fall somewhere in the middle, and that's why the middle of the bell curve is bigger. That's what's called a normal distribution. Okay, so some data follows that pattern and some data doesn't. Okay, and we would call that non-parametric data. It doesn't create like a bell curve on a graph. And so another thing that like I've also attached a resource for you to look at. You can use your text as resources for this too, but I'm also trying to attach resources for you that I think you might find helpful, just at the, to be able to just click and find. So in non-parametric data, like one of the things that you're going to see mentioned that you may not be familiar with is called a Likert scale. And some of you might be employing a Likert scale when you do your research, but like a Likert scale is one of those scales where you have to, and you're familiar with these, you have to like answer a question as like never, some of the time, most of the time, almost always, or always, that kind of a thing, and I mean that was just one example, but that's called a Likert scale. Just so when you see and hear that term, you'll know what it's talking about. But yeah, normal versus non-parametric data comes from different kinds of statistical tests. Now, in terms of the assignments that I want you to work on tonight and in the next couple of days, I want you to do the stats exercise first. All right, so like your assignment, and by the way, this is not an assignment that's on your syllabus, if I remember right. This is something I created for you. So like, instead of doing this during class all at the same time, we're all going to complete this on our own and then come back together. Okay, so just bear that in mind, but it will be there as an assignment that you just have to complete. It's not necessarily part of your final grade. However, the evidence that you completed this assignment is going to be relevant to your grade, so just know that. Don't blow this off. But I want you to do this the independent stats assignment first, not assignment 3 first. So the assignment 3 has to do with an outline you're going to follow, and you're going to respond to different bullet points that give me some feedback of where you are in your plan for your action research study. So please do that second. When we come back together on Friday, on our class on Friday, we will start the class by comparing what we experienced when we did the data analysis exercise. So you're going to need to have your documents handy where you answered all of that, and we're going to be talking about that. Once we get through our discussions about that, then we are going to switch into some individual, like one-on-ones between me and you, where we talk about your assignment 3 together and talk about a direction that we need to go. Let me also take this moment to remind you of the examples in your Improving Schools text, the Appendix A and Appendix B. Remember how we talked about that? I want you to use those as sort of touchstones, like to go back to, so that you have a reference point to go back and look at the elements that were in those research studies that are going to have to be included in yours. Now, if I said this already, I apologize, so I could be repeating myself, but I have decided that I will pull the data sets I want you to use in the Excel assignment so that we will all be working off the same data sets. That'll enable us to have a more meaningful discussion on Friday when we come back together to compare our experience with that assignment and any inferences we made or trouble we ran into. I think that'll be far more useful than you generating random sets yourself. So that will be there in your Class 4 resources. Okay, I think that sums up everything I need to tell you directly. The other instructions you need, I will convey to you via text, and I probably will also put that in a Brightspace announcement, but I think we're good to go in terms of what you need on this video. Good luck with your assignments tonight. I'm around if you need me. Otherwise, we'll see each other live on Friday, and we will determine that time later. It will not be in the morning, most likely, but we'll get to that later. Thanks.